Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Merja here. I hope you're doing really well today. I hope you're enjoying the new decade, the roaring 20s as they call the 1920s. So we are 100 years ahead, and it's certainly interesting times. So let's get to our questions and answers for today. So I'm going to start with here we go. Okay. Question number one. What are the strengths of being an INFJ or INFP? Great question. I think the best qualities of INFJs really are the high level of empathy, the sense of the high level of capacity for empathy, the sense of wanting to create meaningful connections, the willingness to serve other people, and there's usually a high level of competence in INFJs that comes from the inner 10-year-old, the little inward-facing thinking, which is all about the process, the thinking process, and it being pure. And also for INFJs, for me, I'm looking at things like really being able to enjoy the company of others, being able to enjoy being and interacting with other people, looking for solutions for people. So for me, for INFJs, those are the kind of the best qualities. Of course, it depends how mature we all are in terms of if we have access to those things, if we have, how much capacity we have. But for me, those are the main things I really love about the INFJs. And the INFPs, what I really love about INFPs is the capacity for emotion. Capacity for emotion. It's just incredible, and it's incredibly inspirational and permission giving in its nature. For those of you who know, my partner is an INFP. We've been together for nearly a decade, and it's certainly one of the things that inspires me about him in particular. Other things are the possibility of finding what's possible. It's like being able to recognize the possibilities that are on offer, being able to just look at, hey, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible, and really that high level of imagination together with the capacity to feel, I think brings a lot of art forth, a lot of writing. If you've had an opportunity to read any works of INFP writers, for example, or watch movies directed by INFPs, it's just incredible. Just the depth of the capacity for the emotion and the possibilities is just incredible. So imagination is definitely one. Also, I would say for the inward sensing 10-year-old, for me, that part of the INFP is so precious. And not in a way that, people say precious as some kind of a derogatory term, but actually it's that inner 10-year-old is so precious in his or her or their way of finding their own placement within what's happening, finding the understanding of how they place what is happening around them within themselves and how they place themselves in what's happening. And then finally, the INFP inner 3-year-old, the outward facing thinker, I find, because it's a 3-year-old, kind of capacity, he or she or they tend to be tend to organize things in the outside world in spurts. And when something is done in spurts, it's very highly idealistic, which is very, I think, one of the best attributes of both of these types. But also the intensity of it is such that it's easy to get kind of swept into it, and that can be really enjoyable. So for me, those are the best parts of the INFJs and the INFPs. And in terms of the strengths, like just for the INFJ, anything to do with outward facing feeling, which of course is around harmony, is about getting along, about inclusion, interaction, meaningful interaction. That's a real strength for INFJs if they harness the outward facing functions. And for the INFP, the capacity to describe something and the possibilities of something are just incredible. But again, that requires for you to have harnessed your outward facing functions to be able to bring those strengths forward, because when either one of these types is in what's called an introverted loop, where they're collecting information and making decisions based on their inward facing activities or inward facing faculties, what happens is that that loop cuts out all connection to the outside world, which then means that the INF type becomes hermit-like and believes that everything in the world that is coming at them is of negative influence. So it can be very easy for INF types in an introverted loop to be defensive because you feel like you're being attacked. So if you're in that space, you may or may not feel what I've been talking about today. You may or may not be able to relate to those strengths. So I really recommend that you start strengthening your outward facing faculties. If you haven't already done either the INFX Unveiled course, which I made like 5 years ago or something, which is a little bit, it's a bit rough and ready, but it's good material. If you're in a healing process, I really recommend that you check that one out. Or if you haven't checked out the 4 People Within course yet, you can find, I think, both of them on INFX.com. If not, then you can go on to merjasumiloff.com and you can find them there.